It's interesting. The government has actually cancelled some local elections in 9 areas, affecting approximately 6 million voters who will no longer be able to vote in the May elections. And this is part of a bigger plan. I mean, those affected areas are East Sussex, Essex, Hampshire, Isle of Wight, Norfolk, Suffolk, Surrey, Thurrock, and West Sussex. This is a decision as a part of a broader plan, really, to create these combined authorities and appoint mayors. They call them the metro mayors, or the mayors for global climate and energy. It's a global initiative, really, from the it's called the Covenant of Smart City Mayors, or Covenant of Mayors for Climate and Energy. They call them all sorts of things, but they want to install these mayors by 2026. This is next year. So that they become a force, really, for climate change, and they're being given extreme powers. And if you look at the document, which is the Covenant of Global Mayors for Climate and Energy, just Google it, you'll find that this document is partnered with ICLEI, which is the International Committee for Local and Environmental Initiatives, which way back in 1992 at the Earth Summit was tasked with the idea of bringing Agenda 21 from global to local. It's also partnered with the C40 cities and with the Bloomberg Philanthropy and the EU. So it's a big initiative, really, partnered by a lot of these big organisations. There was no consultation on this, and obviously it was, that nobody knew it was coming to actually stop these elections. This move is also backed by the Cities and Local Government Devolution Act of 2016, which I think we've got a slide of. I don't know. For the introduction of these directly elected mayors, the devolution of their key powers really is to take the power from Westminster and give it to these mayors for basically for climate change. And those powers are planning and housing, transport, and also policing. So they're shifting the power from Westminster to these mayors completely. And the provisions for this act are, to introduce the directly elected mayors to oversee combined authorities. And it grants them unlimited control over planning, housing, and allows mayors to actually replace police and crime commissioners, which was a bit of a shock to me, to be honest. And it reduces Westminster's statutory limitations on local authorities. They will have significant power bypassing Westminster to implement net zero policies by 2030 to 2050. And that's their sole aim. They don't really have any, if you look at all the documentation, that's all they talk about is net zero by 2030 onwards. And these plans align with also the government's devolution white paper of 2024, which really, it goes through this whole thing, and it's shifting this power and giving all the power to these directly elected mayors. Now, what could be the potential impacts of this? To almost have whatever's happened in London with Sadiq Khan, to have that happening in these larger devolved areas. So we're looking at what's happened in London, really. We'll have increased urban development because there'll be carte blanche on housing and development, expansion of ultra-low emission zones, ULEZ, low traffic neighbourhoods, LTNs, 15-minute cities, 20-mile-an-hour zones, increased surveillance and AI, Internet of Things, Internet of Bodies coming in, higher carbon taxation, enforced retrofitting of homes to meet new energy efficiency standards, and possible enforcement of climate lockdowns if need be, and geofencing. And that is a concern, because they'll have carte blanche to do whatever they like to reach these targets. So, this isn't, it's sold as empowerment to the local councils, to the locality. We're taking it all away from Westminster because they're not good, Westminster. Give it to us. We'll sort it out. And it's bringing all of this into a local environment. But will the people have any say? And I don't think so, because these regional mayors have all the power. And it centralises the power with these mayors under strict net zero targets that people may or may not want. And And, when they see what's happening, I don't think they will want it. You see, the present unitary councils are to be amalgamated. So at the moment, our small councils all got lumped together. I mean, certainly in my area, they got lumped together. I think it was 3 or 4 councils got lumped together. And so they become unitary. And then what they want to do is then expand that to make these bigger. So you end up with about 7 regions. Instead of 300 and odd councils that we have normally, they're going to be 7 regions. And these will all have these mayors in place. And this is being implemented. This is very clever, the way they're doing it, because this was actually rejected, from 2004 when Tony Blair tried to do this. It was rejected by a lot of the councils. And we see there the devolution, the devoluted areas. And there's also a map that shows you what they planned in 2015 and what's happening now. And it's actually happening, these larger devoluted 7 large areas. And so what they're doing is they're keeping this plan going. And what they've done, and it's very clever, it's like a Trojan horse, they've bankrupted the unitary councils. So when our councils went unitary, and you'll probably find it if yours does in your area, suddenly all these councils that amalgamated that did have money, when they went unitary, suddenly they were bankrupt. Where did the money go? It's all a bit of a mystery. But what happened, and this is very clever, is that they took funding away from the unitary councils and they gave it to the smaller town and parish councils, and they upped their precepts, trebled them in some areas, trebled the precepts of the smaller councils. And the money from the precepts comes from central government, so you're paying for it anyway in your taxation. So what they did is they outsourced all the services from your unitary council that you get on your council tax bill, and they outsourced it to the smaller parish and town councils that have got more money. And these are things like grass cutting, waste disposal, public toilets, public space maintenance. And all of these have been funded by the better funded parish and town councils and taken away from the unitary, because let's face it, they're bankrupt. They haven't got the money to do it. But it ends up with you paying for these services twice. But worse than that, what are you paying for? Because your council tax is going up. My council tax is now going up by 7.5% this year. And yet we're getting less for our services. And it's a way they have to bankrupt these areas, these combined authorities, in order for them to forcefully accept the devolution plans. It's a Trojan horse to bring this climate stuff into local authorities with these mayors that have carte blanche to spend money on whatever they like. And that is very concerning. They're saying, the green energy jobs will be created. But we know that green energy jobs are subsidised at very high costs, averaging about £250,000 per job per year. The national grid expansion to meet renewable energy demands will cost £112 billion by 2035, which will increase our energy bills. Ed Miliband's Clean Power Plan aims to spend 260 to 290 billion by 2030, which is only saving 7 billion annually off the money we spend normally on gas-fired power. So the whole thing doesn't make sense. It doesn't make economic sense. And we know that it's not about environmentalism. It's about control. And the thing is that it's brought in, really as a Trojan horse to roll out the smart city agenda. And we don't have any say. And my thoughts are, it could lead to increased poverty and greater government control. And whilst it's presented as a positive shift towards sustainability and democracy, it does neither. Absolutely neither. It carries economic risks, a reduction in democratic process. Will these policies truly benefit our local communities, or will they impose top-down control? We need to share this information. We don't need to sleepwalk into devolution. And so many people don't know this is happening. That's the problem. Nobody knows it's actually happening. And we've got to really be aware of this, because, we could find ourselves in a situation we can't get out of. Once it's in its motion, we won't be able to stop it.